I'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast with four interesting people. We're with Amy. Um, my mind is just, I feel like I don't know what it's like to be drunk and I don't know what it's like to be high, but it seems like I'm on, a trip or whatever they call that. Like it seems like it's like I wake up and I'm like, holy cow. Like I've never had those thoughts before. I mean, it's amazing what's happening. Just absolutely crazy. What would you like to accomplish today, Amy?
Well, Mark, I know in the past we've talked a little bit about relationships and we've talked about addiction. And you had mentioned some men in their 60s that have been married for 40 years that are having some challenges in communication with their wives and vice versa. Did you want to circle back to that topic?
So, so yeah, I've got men that a little older than me. So I'm 62. They're in their mid 60s, late 60s. And they've been married for over 40 years. And it's fascinating to me how similar our stories are. Now, I approach things differently with my wife, where I'm far more direct with her than most men are. Most women will say, I'm glad my husband's not like your husband to my wife, which is okay. Um, and and most husbands are like, I can't believe you get away with that. Like we were at pickleball and there was a gentleman there. And he said, Mark, I'd never ask my wife 1 to 10, how am I doing as a husband, or 1 to 10, how is our marriage? I'd never ask her that. So I've asked her for that for as long as I can remember, forever. It's like 1 to 10, how'd you rate our marriage? Or 1 to 10, how would you rate me as a husband? And then, what do you like most? And what would be one suggestion on what I could do to improve?
Oh, Mark, that is genius. And I think every couple should do that. And they actually teach it at some marriage conferences.
I mean,
Where you kind of do like a quarterly or biannual check-in, right? Like, has this been going? And
I,
we should capture that and put it in a workbook. Just saying.
I mean, the challenge is I think a lot of times the husband or the wife are, or both are lazy. And so I asked the gentleman, I said, like, that's genius. Why would you do that? And he's a lovely man, lovely wife. They've been married for over 20 years, maybe 30 years, and and they're an adorable couple. I mean, they're just, and he says, well, I just can't win with my wife. Like she won't listen to me. And and I think most men um feel that way. And so um I was talking to a woman yesterday. They've been married for over 25 years, I believe. And I met her husband, I don't know, 4 months ago. And I asked him 1 to 10, how do you rate the marriage like 4 months ago? He said a 10. And I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, he stuck with his story. What would your wife say? Oh, a 10. Okay, whatever. So, I was talking to him on Tuesday and he went ahead and said, yeah, Mark, I'm thinking about divorcing my wife. I thought you were a 10. And he says, yeah, I've got a friend. I've got a friend who, was married for 20 years and he divorced his wife, and his life got a whole lot better. I'm like, wow, okay. And so I said, well, how would you rate your marriage? And he said, a negative, or he said less than a one.
Hmm.
I said, why did you tell me 4 months ago it was a 10? He says, because I was a retard. I'm like, okay, I'll buy that. like, it's just, he's nothing. I said, what do you think your wife would, what do you think your wife would say? And he says, probably a two. So I asked his wife, and so I asked his wife, what would you rate the marriage? And she said a seven.
Wow.
And I told him, I said, well, if your wife's a two and you're like less than a one, that's perfect because you're both miserable. And if you're both miserable, that's a good thing because then you both, I mean, do you want to be, if you want to be miserable, then fine, be miserable. But don't complain and whine to me about a miserable marriage because or miserable husband or miserable because you both choose to be miserable. And if you're going to be miserable. Like it's fine if that's what you want. If not, then change it. And I said, but boy, if your wife, and I told him before she told us it said a seven, I said, if your wife's like seven or better, that's not good because one's happy, one's not. And there's another couple where the husband's, a nine, in the marriage and the wife. Well, she just told me recently, like I asked her 1 to 10, how'd you rate the marriage? She said somewhere between a 5 and a 7. And I said, okay. And if you went ahead and were at a 1 or 2, would you tell me? And she's like, honestly, I don't even know if I'd be at a 1. I don't even know if what a 1 is. Like, I don't even know. Like, it's almost like she's convinced herself. She's convinced herself that, like she doesn't even know. And so I talked to the wife, and she thinks that she's a good student. She thinks she learns. She thinks all of these things. And she was like pretty upset, distraught in not a bad way, in a good way. And so in marriage, when I'm working with couples, I go ahead and say, 1 to 10, where are you at in your marriage? And 1 to 10, they tell me, and I said, what would you like it to be? And then I ask, what do you like most, and whatever. And so the first number is important, but the second number is the most important. And because if that second number is anything below a 6 or below, and if it gets into 3 and 2 area, that's just brutal. That's just absolutely brutal because they've given up hope. The second number is hope. Once I asked a woman, I said, 1 to 10, how'd you rate your marriage? And she said, a 1. I said, what would you like it to be? And she said, a 10 with another man. I'm like,
Oh,
whoa, dang. Like, ouch. I said,
yeah.
is that other man in your life yet? She's like, he's not. I'm like, that husband, he better get his act together. He better get his act together. And so I think men are not honest with women. And I don't think women understand. Like one of the guys yesterday, I was laughing. The three of us were talking, just laughing like crazy. He says, you know, women, it's like Charlie Brown and Lucy pulling the football out from underneath you. Like, I want to know your feelings. They don't want to know your feelings. They don't. They don't. I want to know the truth. Tell me the truth. They don't. Women don't want the truth. They just don't. Now, if you're a woman on and you're getting upset, it applies to you. If you're a woman on and you're like, there's a lot of truth to that, well, then you're my kind of woman. You like, you realize, like most women, it seems like have not studied women very much. Being
Well,
married for 41 years and having 4 adult daughters, I've studied a lot of women. Go ahead.
I was gonna say too, it's like when you ask a man a prayer request, a lot of times they're pretty vague. They don't really go into details. But when women are together, women will go deep and give you way more details in a prayer request as well. So there's a disconnect too. But don't you think like the personality styles play an impact in that?
They
Because
do.
I'm a woman that would like to just be told no, no, we're not doing that, or no, I can't do that, versus I'll try or a maybe. Try and maybe
Um,
drive me crazy.
right.
And so I think going back to your personality styles, if you're ranking the relationship, you know, things that are important and to be fun and having conversations about where your relationship rank may not be fun because I've also been told don't ask questions you don't really want answers to.
Right. See, and this is where I've been looking because women won't listen to me. I mean, they'll like Amy XIE from China. Like she liked me for 3 months. 3 months she liked me. She'd introduce me to all her Chinese women friends and say, Mark's the smartest American man I've ever met. And she kind of took the edge a little bit off because another man comes along and she says, he's right in front of me. I'm like, you don't want to do that. But anyways, so she loved me for 3 months because I told her exactly what she wanted to go ahead and hear. And then after 3 months, I went ahead and changed and told her something that she didn't want to hear, but I thought would help her. Man, did she get ticked. Man, was she angry. She's like, you don't understand Chinese. I just started laughing. I guess when a woman's angry or crying, you're not supposed to laugh, but I have social autism. So I have a disability. So women are like, oh, you have a disability. Like, you're so cute. No, they don't do that. They're like, you're using your disability as an excuse. I'm really not. It's just kind of how I am. I'm going to like people say, what's social autism? I'm like, I don't know. It's like if I see stupid, I just say, hey, I think you're stupid. I think you're going to give me a hug because I would give somebody a hug if they told me I was stupid. Like, wow, somebody actually is honest. Like, I don't meet very many of them. So thank you for telling. Now let's talk about where do you think I'm stupid? I got to have a conversation. I think it's kind of funny. It's like, that's really cool. And then I think all their friends would give me a hug too, because all their friends know they're stupid, but their friends don't care for them like I care for them. They care about the friendship more. If you ever get a friend that cares more about you than the friendship, keep that friend because they're few and far between. They're just not there. So in personalities, Amy, you're absolutely right. Roughly about 75% of men, it seems like, will go ahead and be analytic and driver. I'm a stereotypical man. But my wife says that I'm more of a woman than she is. So I cry, like we were talking, I think in the
Mhm.
like I cry, and I go ahead and so I switch personalities for 2 years to the amiable, and then another 3 years to the expressive, and so I can work at it. But 75% of women are going to be expressive and amiable, and 25% of men are. We tend to like other people who are like us, and we tend to fall in love with people who are opposite of us.
Mhm.
And so if you're, and so Amy, Amy is going to be expressive and driver. So there's
Mhm.
going to be a lot of female energy in the expressive and a lot of male energy in the driver. And so what will happen is in business, the driver stuff, most women are not going to like Amy. Why not? Because she thinks like a man. And when you think like a man in business, men like you. And when men like you, other women don't. They get jealous. They're like, well, why don't you study women who are liked by men? Like, if you're going to be in business, if you're going to be in a man's world in business, well, then you probably be smart to think like a man. And, um, and so, but there is a difference. Like, if you have the exact same personality as me, like Elaine has almost the exact same personality. She's a little different, but very similar personality. And she and I think in a very similar manner. So even if you had a woman that was the exact same personality, and I've known this for over 20 years, but I haven't figured it out, is she's different. Even if she's the exact same personality, she's still a woman. And a man, and so a new friend of mine, he's a double expressive primary with a double amiable secondary. And so he's more of an opposite than my wife is of me. So I was talking to him and I was talking to his daughter, and his daughter is interesting because she's, more like me. And we were having a great time. She's in business and doing a bunch of cool stuff. And he could see that she and I were connected. He says, "You're gonna like my daughter, more than me." And then I explained to him and his daughter, I said, "Well, you like people." And so she said, "So you're gonna like me and fall in love with my dad." Like, but he has enough of an edge of an expressive. When I say he's stupid or somebody else is stupid, he just laughs. Like, why?
Mhm.
He's curious. Like, I don't know why people aren't curious. Like, he thinks it's funny that I'm so direct with people. And so the analytic amiable, that's what my dad is. And they say in marriage that you marry the person, that the parent that you didn't connect with the most, to get a second chance in life. And that's true. So my mom and I were very close, but my wife is like my dad, like the personality. And so, like, my dad irritated the like crazy out of me, and my wife does too. So I think, Amy, you're right. I think that you're right in this, but like the Life GPS mobile app, we're hoping so I'm doing a lot of training on that, and I'm hoping that it can help me to understand some of the differences. Other questions or thoughts you had, Amy?
No, I think that's really good. And I would love to see something like that come out and also see something like that we can tie into marriage counseling or counseling pre-marriage folks as well. Like to be mentors to younger couples, but even older couples. I think there's more couples that divorce after 20, 30 years than there are that have only been married 5 or 10.
Right. Like it, we're 41 years. And so when I was at 20, when I was at, 15, 20, and I saw married, couples getting married after, divorced after 30 years, I'm like, that makes no sense. But after I hit 30 years, I understood. Like, I get this now. Like, really? And Tom Kuntz, and he was open. He shared it openly he went through, there's a course in life masteries on personality masteries. I think I taught it. I think it's a 12-week course. And he said, Mark, I've never been through any course like this. He said, this is absolutely a game changer. He said, so he went through the course, and then at the holidays, um, he all the family was together. So his current wife, I think of 20 years, was with him, and his ex-wife was there. And then his kids and their spouses were all there. And he says, I'm going to say something, Mark. I don't want you to take it wrong. He said, I love my current wife like crazy. I'm glad I married her. Just amazing. But he said, if I'd have been through this course, I don't think, if I'd have gone through this course earlier, I don't think I would have gotten divorced. Because it explained everything to me. So the first 2 years of our marriage were really rough, like really, really rough. And I'm like, this is not, she was 19 and I was 20. We were in college and working and a whole bunch of stuff. And so it was really rough. And then, what was it, 3, 4 years later, I was introduced to Personality Masteries and Life Masteries Institute and all this stuff. And it's like, it explained it. I'm like, okay, so this is, so inner quadrant personalities tend to attract inner quadrant personalities, and outer quadrant personalities tend to attract outer quadrant personalities. And so we, we, it's almost like God knew when he designed us that we needed a counterbalance to what we were, but it gets all wonky. And so this, I won't go and say it saved our marriage, but it helped me to understand my wife and to say, okay, like, and she's definitely helped me become the man I am today. And so, but it's been hard. And 41 years, it's as hard now, if not harder now.
Mhm.
And it's like, and so, other questions or thoughts, Amy, that you have?
Yep, that was it.
So I think the thing that, I wish that when before we were married, I wish you'd have gone through this. I wish there was something out there that says, this is, and the Life GPS mobile app with I think it can crack the code. And so, you know, like we could have a woman and then her guy friend before they get married, and we could plug that in and say, this is probably, this is likely what the challenges you're going to have. And then I don't have as much confidence in, well, this is what you ought to do because I haven't figured it out myself. I mean, I understand theory and stuff, but it's like a lot of this stuff doesn't seem to be working, and it's like it needs to work. And so,
Mhm.
anyone else have any other thoughts or questions? So, if there's anyone interested in going down this path, um, you're in a relationship. Ooh, ooh, ooh! I just had an idea. Um, so Katrina's not in a relationship yet, but wouldn't it be cool to go ahead? So she's 20. Wouldn't it be cool to go ahead and say, have an assessment and say, this is probably the man that you're going to marry, the type of man you're going to marry, and this is going to be the challenges that you have. I would think that would be really cool, but I'm a driver. I like to see into the future and say, how do I prepare for things? So if any of you are interested in having a report, if any of you are interested in having a report, and it's interesting, there's just women on. And so,
Mhm.
which is fascinating, which is fine. Not that women are controlling. You can read it before you give it to your husband. So you don't have to, you can, like, do I want him to be aware of this?
I think it's a good idea. And Mark, if you want to experiment with me, you're welcome to. I'll be that first guinea pig.
I would love to. Like, I think it would be really, really cool. It's a fun, it's a like, well, we got a couple minutes. Do you have a couple minutes or you got to
I
run
still
a?
have a couple minutes. Yeah.
So, like Roseanne and I, this is after 25 years of marriage, 30 years of marriage. Yeah, probably 25 years of marriage. We're going to this new church and we're in this, this couples group. It's a brand new church. We're new to the church and there's couples group. There's 10 couples in there. And the pastor's talking and he's talking about wives submit to your husbands, famous book or famous passage that they always talk about. But the passage right before that is submit one to another.
Yep.
And I've never heard a sermon on that one. So
Yeah.
I'm struggling as a husband, legitimate, like 5 years, 6 years. I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm supposed to. And so it's pretty clear. Like
Yeah. And
I'm supposed.
husbands, yeah, and husbands love your wife like Christ loves the church also is part of that. Just I'm throwing that in there too, but we should have a whole conversation just on those three pieces because I
Right,
agree, Mark, it's not
right,
communicated well.
right. And so it's like, so I'm like, I don't know when to submit to her. There's a whole bunch of things in the Bible about husbands submitting to their wives, and it's a mess when they do. I mean, it is just the train goes off the track when a husband submits to his wife when he shouldn't. So I'm like, so I know I should. I just don't know, like, what's the parameters? And I think a good thing for men, husbands, is when you feel you should submit, maybe you shouldn't. When you want, want it's easy. When it's hard, like, okay, this is going to be a hard thing. Like, like Abraham and Sarah, it's like when she says, hey, can you sleep with my young virgin handmaid? He probably should have said, no, like,
Yeah,
no,
he's
not,
right. That would have been a good time to say no. And that's where, I like the word no, but not all women like the word no, right?
well, yeah, and that's the thing when a woman gets to know what does that mean, and so it's a good conversation. So I look at my wife, and so I have a rule whenever I'm with her because a lot of times churches use women and children and grandchildren as human hostages, human shields. So I don't want to ask a question that's going to make her pay because that's what happens. So I have a rule, a self-imposed rule, and it's like I'm not going to ask a question. So I look at her, and she doesn't know the question I'm going to ask. She just knows I'm going to ask a question. I'm like, just look at her, and she's like, no. She's like, no, no, nope, nope. Like, don't even, nope. So I'm like, I'm going to have to work for this one here. So I look at her, and then I give her the puppy dog eyes, and finally we don't even talk, and we're just looking. This is after 25 years of marriage. It's like, and we're just looking. And finally she relents and just shakes her head and rolls her eyes and she's like, fine, ask the question. So I raised my hand, asked the question. I said, I'm just curious, like I've been struggling, like the passage before wives submit. I don't, I'm trying. He lit me up like a Christmas tree. He's like, Mark, that doesn't negate the next verse. And some people use that against pastors. I'm like, whoa, dude. Like, sorry. I'm new to the church for crying out loud. Like, I'm a husband trying to go ahead and figure out life. And this is the kind of response I get at church. And so I don't know. Somebody ought to get this one over to Mike Casper. So Mike is a friend of mine, been a friend of mine for decades. And he said he thinks that I have a negative view of pastors and churches. I don't think I do. I just think I have a lot of experiences that nobody talks about. And it's like, why would you do that to somebody new to the church? Like, why would you go ahead and attack him in front of everybody else? Like, why do you ask that question? Because I'm struggling. Like, it's a sincere question. Like, I'm just trying to figure life out, and I go to church and I get attacked. Like, so they teach me don't ask questions at church. Just don't ask questions. And so,
And not all churches are like that. My church, you can ask questions, just throwing that out there. But yeah, a lot of churches, those pastors get a little crazy sideways with you if you start asking questions. And I left a church because I asked questions and my pastor didn't like it and still doesn't like me today either. So, Mark, I get where you're coming from.
so Amy, like all women, she's they're built to irritate men and tease men. so she's teasing me right now.
No, I legit got asked. I left the church literally
No,
because I
I
asked so
get
many
that. That
questions.
I
But
believe. That I totally get. That I believe. Like, no, yep, she's a sister. Yep, we're born same thing. You know, the only thing worse than a man asking a hard question is a woman asking a
yeah,
hard question. That's even worse. Like, how dare you go ahead and ask? But no, she's teasing me about the new church she's going to. So I'm like, ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm going to go ahead and give her a question that she can ask her pastor, and we'll see. I hope she's right. It would be so cool if she was. So in doing this, there's so much. I think women, they're hungry for the truth. They didn't get it from their dad. They didn't get it from their boyfriend. They didn't get it from
yep,
their brothers. They didn't get it from their husband. They're not getting it from the church. They're not getting. I think women, like men, are like, you got a lot of women around you, Mark. And I'm not saying they like you, but they hang around with you. And I think it's because women at a heart level want to know the truth. They want men that are strong enough to go ahead and say, listen, sweetheart, listen, I think you're off here. And then to do
yeah,
battle and
yeah,
duke it out, to have true friendship and true relationship and true connection and deep connection rather than superficial surface things and just telling women what they want to hear. This is
yep,
not healthy for anybody. So, man, like this is, during the, the work day. So men are out working, women are studying, figuring out relationships. How do we figure out life? So I'm just one of the girls. But I would encourage you ladies to get other ladies to listen to the podcast. And I would go ahead and get men to listen to. So if you have any questions, connect with the individual who invited you to participate, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300, outside the US 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Thanks, Amy.